everyone, and welcome back to the Glass Table, the pair, all kinds of stuff that you're joining us on. I don't know how to intro this, so I'm going to do it as naturally as possible. This is an official episode of the Glass Table. I just decided to make Jarryd do something for once.
Do something for once. And what has ended up happening is that we've said we'll do like recording at like eight here, 7:30 Adelaide time. That's what we'll do. And we've spent 45 minutes setting up all new setups that you are now currently seeing in terms of lights and microphones, which I can have right here and I can hold up really close. And it's very, very fun. And yeah, here we are again doing not like you said, not an official episode, but just a bit of fun and something to do on a Sunday night, which is very exciting.
Yes, obviously we'll be recording this and putting this out. It's what we're doing today is talking about who will be the top 10 players of 2025. We're basically using our knowledge, our eye test, and our predictions of what could be for 2025 the top 10 players. You've seen Mark Robinson, you've seen careless amounts of articles, you've seen everything put out about top 10 players and top 50s and lists. So we thought, just like any footy pundits, we'll do the same thing. And as you can tell, just like we are every single year, we come in to our seasons as bright as we possibly can be.
And there it is. There's the line that was being teed up from the moment we began this one.
Jarryd, it's great to have you back for the new year. As we said, Glass Table won't start till a couple of weeks prior to the season. But how are you? How's everything been? And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this video as well.
Fantastic. It has been very, very good. Obviously, footy has been done now for a little while. I mean, the men's footy anyway. Obviously, we got a nice taste of the women's footy towards the back end of the year and everything, which has been very, very good. But it's been, I think speaking early here, I really miss footy. Like there's been some years, and I think last year I wasn't as into it, partly because I wasn't in the country and I was kind of not in like the circle of it all. So I think it's making this year's lead up even more so. Like I'm like, man, I cannot wait for those 8 quarter practice matches to come in. Like I'm so excited for Hawks and Geelong on a Monday at GMHBA. Like it's gonna be just, I'm missing footy very, very much, and I'm very excited to get back into it.
Can't wait for those 4 o'clock time trials.
Oh,
There's internals that come around. 6 quarters. You've got the black team versus the white team.
yeah.
All the youngsters get a go in the first half.
Sam Durham has 45 touches in the Essendon Intra Club, and all of a sudden he's the greatest player that's ever walked the earth. He did take a screaming the other day. I don't know if you saw that video.
I did see that. That's also a name I have not put on the list here. But let's get straight into it, because the amount of times that I've been told on this channel to get on with it, I'm going to do that today. So if you're watching, God bless your feedback. Thanks for your feedback. Anyway, as I drop my pen, good start. We're doing top 10 players of 2025. This isn't based on stats or anything. You obviously know a top 10 by the end of the year. We're purely predicting, and this time of the year is always predicting, rounds, results, Brownlows, premierships. It's typical January content. So without further ado, we're going to basically go through a whole bunch of names that we think will be top 10, argue the point, and we'll keep going through each numbers to we name our number 1 player of 2025 and who we predict it will be. So number 10, Jarryd Thomas. I'll let you go first. Who have you put in at number 10 and why?
All right. Well, my first one I'm going with is a player that's been sort of around about for a while, and it's funny. Okay, so here's a hint first off. He has just become a premiership player, and yet I somehow still think that he's an all Australian, he's a premiership player, and I somehow still think he's being slightly underrated. And his name is Harris Andrews. And
Whoa.
yeah, so I'm big on a good key defender, right? And Harris Andrews has had his issues over time with, people sort of questioning his work ethic, I say, would be a good way to put it. But he has proven in the last year especially that when the back's against the wall, when the Lions' backs were against the wall at the start of the year, they looked gone for all money. him, Lockie Neal, this variety of Lions players ended up just coming in and absolutely dominating. And I think Harris Andrews is sort of underrated for the fact that I think he is the best key defender in the comp, in that he will shut down who he needs to go on. And it showed the year before in the Collingwood Brisbane Grand Final. Billy Frampton, the whole reason he was in that game was to shut down Harris Andrews. And he did an okay job for 3 quarters, but then the last quarter, Harris Andrews was the best player on the ground. So my thing is that Harris Andrews is, in my mind, still underrated. And I think he is in the conversation as the best defender in the game. And in personally, my best defender in the game. And I think he is worthy of being considered one of the top 10 players in the AFL.
Completely agree, but he's not my number 10.
That's okay.
My argument for number 10 is Noah Anderson. We want to talk about underrated, and I think he will take Gold Coast to the level they need to be. And he's already at a prime level. Like, he's one of the best players in the comp, just underrated players for a side that we don't recognise as a premier team. And they're always around the mark, but they always fail. Noah Anderson continuously, and I don't think he's developed into a midfielder that's... I think he does go missing a little bit in those big games, but we have seen him take the big moments,
Richmond,
against Richmond. So I think he should be number 10. It's hard to compare because obviously defender Noah Anderson's a midfielder, but my argument's sake for it is I think he should be number 10. Obviously, we'll circle back on all these, but I think mine is number 10. I think Noah Anderson is primed for a great year. And if Gold Coast make the finals, he's the reason for it.
Yeah, I think, there was a very, like, you look at the stats of last year, Noah Anderson was out and out one of the best players in the AFL. He was tipped to finish very, very high in the Brownlow, and know that he did. And he was one of those players where you kind of look back and you look at, especially the start of his season, he was insane. Like he's a 30-3 specials, and 30-3 to me is the ideal stat line. So I don't mind that at all. And like you said, it's hard to compare obviously midfielders and forwards. I tried to not put too many midfielders in there, and I still put plenty. But I think he is definitely one of those players where if Gold Coast are to play finals, it's because he has to be good. Him, Rowell, Ben King, these kinds of players have to be amazing. Noah Anderson leads that charge, 100%. My next one is sort of... The only way I can explain it is that, and this is just because I've been thinking of it recently, because it recently came out. He's a bit of a Vegemite shaker fries of a selection into this list, because he's probably not a top 10 player in the AFL. Realistically, he's a little bit weird. It's a little bit of a weird pick, but we have seen a player of his style be very, very good in recent years. Dylan Moore, right? A couple years ago,
he's in mine.
Yeah, okay, good. So a couple of years ago, Toby Green was the All-Australian captain. I think people are forgetting about that. Dylan Moore, in my mind, is that next Toby Green style. Medium forward, kick 3 or 4 a game, have 25. So damaging. That high half forward role is such a damaging role. And Dylan Moore, to me, is one of those players where if Hawthorn are going to be good again, and people are going to be gunning for Hawthorn this year because they're the young up-and-coming team, blah, blah, blah. If they're going to be good, it's because Dylan Moore has to be good again. And he had an amazing year, Dylan Moore. And I think he's going to continue to take that level, hit that Toby Green style of consistently very, very good at football.
See, I just realised as well that Dylan Moore was not in my 10, but he was a name and he was very, very close. My number 9 that I'm arguing that will be a top 10 player this year, and I think he probably might end up a bit higher up. But if the Saints are to do anything this year and to even propel themselves, he's always a premier player of the comp, it's Rowan Marshall. I think, we talk about Tristan Cherry was an outstanding ruckman, robbed, to be honest. I mean, Rowan Marshall didn't even get selected at all in the All-Australian, but Tristan Cherry, I think, had a great season. But is Tristan Cherry now a premier ruckman, or did he just have a great season? And that's my argument. Rowan Marshall's done it for 3 years. He's been consistent. He is the most unique ruckman in the comp. Kick goals, move, take marks, great kicking, beautiful tapping of the ruck. Beautiful tapping of the ruck is a great sentence. Beautiful tapping of the pill in the ruck.
Yes.
And I think, the first 4 players that we mentioned are very, very good players. And as we get higher, I think we can sort of argue positions. But I'm more than happy to have Rowan Marshall in the top 10 this year. I
Well,
know
I'm glad
you'd
you
be
say
too.
that. I'm glad you say that because he's my number eight. Rowan
So,
Marshall is in there too for me, which is obviously very, very good. And, that's out and out. That's me agreeing with what you say. I think he is obviously, I think Tristan Cherry is an incredible footballer. I think Rowan Marshall just does the other things better because I have a bit of a thing against Tap Ruckman where a lot of hit outs are a great stat and all, but hit outs to advantage of the main stat kind of thing. And when a player has 60 hit outs a game and 14 are going to advantage, it's like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Rowan Marshall may not get the most hit outs in the game, but he will have 11 clearances. And as a ruckman, that's pretty impressive. And like you said, I think the big key one there is he can move. He can actually move around the ground, which a lot of ruckmen cannot do. Tristan Sherry is not as good at moving around the ground. Max Gawn has been doing it for a while, obviously, but I think he's now hitting the age where he's going to start declining a little bit. And the players around him obviously aren't playing as well as they usually are, getting injured, things like that. I think
mhm.
Ron Marshall, in my humbly biased opinion alone, should also be in our list.
See, and this is the thing. He 100% will be now because he's both on our list.
Both on
It's
ours,
a
yep.
matter of where he ranks. And the reason I wouldn't say let's just put him in straight at 8 is because I think my number 8, and to be honest, you could argue it against me and we could just lock in Rowan Marshall here and now, but Charlie Curnow is the best key forward in the comp. We've talked about it off air, we've talked about it on air, we've talked about it all 2024, all 2023. Carlton are a chance to make it big in 2025. He has to play pretty much every single game and kick about 80 goals again to give him a sniff. And he was well on track last year before his injuries. But my thing is, I think if his body doesn't hold up, Carlton in itself won't do too much. I don't think they have the caliber to do it. And they'll be a very good side still. But if Charlie is at his best in 2025, which I think he will be, he'll be the top 10 player, and possibly even the top 5. We talk about midfielders and how great they are, and you compare apples with oranges. And I've described that before. But I think, I'm happy to even just say now I'll put Charlie at 9, Rowan and Marshall at 8, and we lock in Rowan Marshall in that 8th spot.
See, I would love to be able to just do that. However, I have Charlie Curnow higher on my list than you.
This is juicy.
So we'll leave that, and he's not the next player I'm going to say. So I'll leave that a little bit. But I think if we're going to have it, I think Charlie Curnow should be higher than Rowan Marshall because I'll talk about Charlie Curnow when I get to my kind of thing. But those two, at least, guaranteed right now are in our top 10, which is good. So that's at least 2 spots locked in. But I think Charlie should be a little bit higher. Player that I've got right now in my 7 is a player that we used in a couple of our polls, which we'll talk about in a second. And he, to me, is on the verge of. Okay, the way I can explain it is that he plays in a team and in a spot where he does not get enough love. And I think if you watched this team play and if you watched this player play, you would be like, oh, he's actually unbelievable. And that's Caleb Sarong. Caleb Sarong, to me, has jumped over Andy Brayshaw, which I think has happened as of last year, basically. And he is so good at football, Caleb Sarong. He's an unbelievable midfielder. And I don't think he gets enough credit because of the team he plays for. And because obviously Freo should be better than they are. And obviously they didn't make finals. They were close, but they didn't make finals last year. Freo make finals this year. Caleb Sarong will be lauded as one of the best players, and I will go even as far as to say that if Freo make finals, this is jumping the gun with our bold predictions video that we're probably going to do at some point. I think
Okay.
that Caleb Sarong, if Freo make finals, Caleb Sarong will be like a top 3 finish in the AFL Players MVP or the Coaches MVP, like one of those two AFL Association awards. He would be right up there in it.
See, now I agree with that because Caleb Strong is also on my list, but he's a little bit higher.
Yep, there we go.
My 7 is a left field one, and we talk about ratings and systems and discussions and making an argument for player 1 and player 2, et cetera, et cetera. But we always never look at the full picture. It's always what you do with your eye test, and this is partly the case of what our arguments are. But the AFL have their rating system, and I remember when it came out big and huge, they were like, oh, this is, a perfect way to keep track of how each player is doing, both in offense and defense, and disposals, marks, what they're doing with the footy, without the footy, and their rating system is, I think it's quite spot on. Almost. Sometimes I look at it and go, "Are you sure?" But he's ranked 20. So he's not a top 10 player, but I think he's a top 10 unit, and it's Jarryd Newcombe.
That is hilarious because that was the player that I was thinking you were talking about.
Jarryd Newcombe is prolific, and his second half of the year last year, we saw in the Brownlow, he was polling left, right, and centre. He was fantastic. He was the reason Hawthorn went on their winning streak. He was a reason for their power in the midfield. The reason why they were so hard at the footy and hard to get the footy too. So I make a case for him. I put him in there because I feel like he can be shoved around and possibly pushed out the top 10. Sorry, but number 7, I think he's got his own case, and I think that's what sells it for him.
Yeah, Jai Newcombe was in my extended squad, we'll call it, my players that I was picking from. And yeah, I think he's definitely got a case, which we'll definitely talk about in a little bit on how he is. Because there, like you said, he kind of led Hawthorn through this unbelievable patch. My next one is a bit of a weird one as well. This one is purely based on a gut feel and a bit of an eye test because I think this footballer last year he had a great year again last year, but he's had a good consistent few years, and I think this is finally going to be the year. And again, this is like Sarong, where if he played for a different team, he would be considered one of the greats. If he played for a team in Victoria, he would be on fucking $1.5 million a year, and that is Sam Taylor. Sam
Yeah,
Taylor.
right.
Sam Taylor to me is, and I have said this for years. I happened to be at the Collingwood GWS prelim, 2019, before Giants got smoked in the granny, and that was the Sam Taylor breakout game where he was a fucking star in the wet and he was really, really good. I think that he can announce himself as like him and like I said, Harris Andrews earlier. I think Sam Taylor. I think the Giants will be really good, and I think Sam Taylor is going to be the main reason for that. I think he is a weapon down back and very, very hard to beat. And I think he is going to announce himself as the premier, like premier defender kind of thing in the comp. Him and Harris Andrews are the two that obviously I've said, and I think Sam Taylor is the one for me that is very, very high up there. Eye test, just how he goes about it, no nonsense. And again, like I said, if he played for a team in Victoria, he would be on that level of everyone talking about him. So Sam Taylor for me is in my sixth spot.
I love it. I've also realised I don't have a defender in my top 10, and that's going to hurt me. But also, I'm now forward, so it
I was
doesn't
going to
really
say
matter.
for a defender turn forward that you've abandoned code very, very quickly.
Stuff them. They're overrated anyway. Number 6, same argument for him, and I'll make it quick. It was Caleb Sarong. So I've got him in there. So it's good to know there's the players in a couple of positions, and we can be like, all right, we can lock this in because of overall we're officiating one top 10 list.
Yeah,
this is why we're here. So yeah, that Caleb Sarong. I'll argue a position later. I think he's pretty much right there. Who's your 5th?
my 5th is the guy that we actually pitted against Caleb Sarong in our polls, and that's Errol Goulden. I think Errol Goulden does not get enough credit for how good he is. People gave a lot to Chad Warner in the last few years and everything like that, but I think last year finally was the chance that people were like, oh, Errol might be the best player in this team. And coming into 2025, Chad Warner, and I have this opinion already that Chad Warner is going to leave Sydney at the end of the year, and I think he's going to not be as good heading out the door. So I think Errol Goulden, for me, is going to prove that he is more than just a one-dimensional wing. And like people know that anyway, but he's going to really prove that he is a unbelievably damaging footballer. He's a great kick. He's an unbelievable person on foot. Can handball, can charge, can kick goals, can do what he needs to, can play a role. Errol Goulden to me is the next level of what we're going to expect out of wingman. And I think he's far and wide the best winger in the comp. And he is going to prove why he is that this year.
I have no argument against that. He is in my top 5, but he's not my 5th. But I completely agree. He is, in my opinion, he's the best player at Sydney. I look at his impact. We've seen games where he's been shut down, and whilst Isaac Heaney has been a match winner, Errol Goulden is the glue of that. And I think It's a pretty similar argument to what I have for my number 5, which is Jason Horne-Francis. As simple as I think he'll be a top 5 player, he's already proven he's going to be, I think. There's a massive case. It's the best part about him is we always have a player that's, the poster boy. Everyone's a poster boy. You look at the Nick Dacos's, can't do a thing wrong.
Yep.
Your Patrick Cripps, your Marcus Bontempellis. You know a player's good when half the comp hates you. When wherever you go, they boo you. And I won't say it now, but if I had a bold prediction, which I'll probably end up saying in our bold predictions, Jason Horne-Francis will overtake Butters and Rosie and become the best Port Adelaide player this year. Give me a player that's going to have the ability to have 22, 23 touches at like 80% efficiency and then go down forward and be a key forward, kick 3 or 4. In a forward line that will have Lukosius, Georgiadis, Rioli, Pau Pepper's back. You're going to have probably a Todd Marshall or a Jamie Finlayson sweeping around. If none of those fire, which probably can happen, that you leave one man in the square. He is the modern day Robbie Gray. 1-on-1. Good luck. But that's my argument for the 5th.
That's an interesting one because I'll get to this afterwards kind of thing. I have a different opinion on who I think Port Adelaide's best player is going to be next year. And I think I'll touch on that when we're actually going through our list kind of thing. Because it's very interesting. And I think Jason Horne-Francis, like you said, it's the Dusty archetype of go in the midfield and when you need goals, just get down there and kick 3 for us, would you? That kind of deal, which is fair enough. So we'll discuss that because I think it's very close. But I think there's another Port player I think is going to take a step. My 4th is, yes.
Before you get to your 4th, I'll do my 4th first because you'll have a lengthy discussion. My 4th is Errol Goulden. So 5th, 4th for you.
Yep.
I don't want to double up. So
he's around the area. Yeah.
4th place is Errol Goulden. So tick that off. Who's your 4th?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't even think I have that much of a lengthy discussion for me. This player has been my favorite player in the competition for almost his entire career, basically. But like not even like he's just always there, and that is Marcus Bontempelli for me. This man, he just proves every year why he is so good. And we talk about Jason Horne-Francis. That's what Bont can do. The amount of games in 2024 where it was like, oh, Bont's coming into this with a bad back. Oh, he's coming into this sick, and then he went out there and had 30 and kick 3, and it was like, what? Like, what do you even mean? And he proves time and time again that he's so good. He proves why he's so good with the players MVPs and the coach MVPs. Bont for me can't not be on this list. He's obviously getting older. Still not old, but he's getting older. I think he's still there. I think he's still the Dogs' best player. He's still going to be one of the best players in the AFL.
So that's your number 4.
My number 4.
Who's your number 3?
Number 4. My number 3 is Charlie Curnow.
Wow, yeah, that's high.
Yep. Because, and I said this last year, he was playing hurt for a really, really long time. And I think he was playing hurt almost the entire year and then tried to push through it in the end. That man, what I saw him do in 2023 and then what I am able to see from him, he's so damaging. Like every time the ball goes near him, it is an insane thing to see. And I think he comes into this year more fit than he was. If he comes in 100%, Charlie Curnow is one of the most damaging players in the AFL. He's the only player that I can like picture in my head where I'm like, you could probably kick 80 in a year. Like that's me. That's him to me. So Charlie Curnow is my number 3.
Interesting. And I tell you what, it's a very hard argument for Charlie because I feel very stiff on a bloke that's probably in both of our extended squads in Jesse Hogan.
Yeah.
Because you pitch him together. And I watch Jesse Hogan in the way he moves, and it's not too dissimilar to Charlie. Charlie's a big, powerful forward, can take on anyone, go down back. Jesse Hogan's a smart footballer. Very smart in the way he moves, the way he leads. His leading patterns are great. Strong
he doesn't run a lot,
one.
doesn't have to. That's my thing with Jesse. He doesn't run a lot because he does not have to.
So that's something you obviously take into the fact because he's your impact down forward. You need someone to stand up. He's clunking them. We'll kick a bag, no worries like that. But yeah, my number 3, and I think he'll be most number 3s, is Nick Dacos. I don't think there's too much of an argument there. my thing with Nick and my thing with my list in general is I think this year's going to be a generational change. We've had your Bonts, we've had your Cripps, your premier midfielders of the comp,
Your Neils.
your Petrakas, your Neils. This is the year that people like your youngsters, your Gouldens, your Dacos, they overtake. They're still going to be good. And I'll give you a hint now. Patrick Cripps is not in my top 10.
Oh,
I don't think he's going to be a top 10 player in 2025.
it's a bold prediction. That is a bold prediction
I
right
know. And I'm probably going to get so many people coming at me for it. And
there.
I it's not ill thought. I think he's been a great person, leader, player, two-time Brownlow medalist. But I'm not talking about what he's done. We're all talking about what's going to happen. So Nick Dacos is going to take Collingwood to probably a top 4 finish again.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get injured, I mean that plantar fasciitis
The one.
sounds like something Petrarca would cook.
He's not cooking much at the minute, let me tell you that.
No ribs on the menu.
But
There's a
I
sprinkle of GT in there for you.
I was gonna say there's what's to expect for the year coming up. I I'm not gonna argue Nick Dacos because I'm gonna talk about him in a little bit. I'm not talking about him yet though, because my number two is Patrick Cripps. Um there's not much to be said. I mean, obviously, like you said, I think okay, Patrick Cripps to me is following a very, very Chris Judd-like career in that he is an absolute superstar, and at the peak of their powers, which Patrick Cripps is right about now, he's a star. And I think he's not done from that yet. I think he's still going to be unbelievably good, Patrick Cripps. But his shoulders are going to cook him eventually. That's my thing. I've got this prediction that in about 2 to 3 years, Patrick Cripps is going to fall off a cliff, not because of his talent, because his body's just going to collapse on him one day. And that'll be it. It'll be the Chris Judd. Body will just collapse and it'll be done. But I still think that Patrick Cripps is still, as I knock something over, goodness me, I think Patrick Cripps is still one of the best players in the competition. Obviously, smoked the Brownlow, which is just what it is. I don't think he falls off to that point. I think he's still going to be amazing. I don't think Carlton are going to be as amazing as I think a few people think they will be, but I think he's still going to be very, very good.
Yeah. And I kind of feel it's just personal opinion. So I guess you can't really argue that. People are going to come out and be like, oh, why don't you think like this? This is personal opinion. And in the end, we're going to post our top 10. It's not top 10 each. So
Yeah, exactly.
he'll probably end up being there.
Exactly.
My number 2 is Travis Boak. No, I'm kidding. My number 2 is Zach Butters.
Yeah, okay.
I think the way people look at Port and they go, right, look at these 3, the big Premier 3. If they're going to win a flag, it's those 3. Zach Butters had the best of the lot last year. And what did people do? Criticise him for his fines, look at him at the way that he played, and no one liked it. No one likes someone that gets under the skin of the opposition. Similar to Jason Horne-Francis, but he's a little bit more hated. But Butters is a match winner. And his ability, I think, what sets the tone from the rest is I look at the Saints game at Marvel. The first thing that happens is it's Jordan Sweet down to Zach Butters, and he's making a trade of himself for it. Sprints out of it, hits 50, snag, goal. One of the quickest goals in AFL history. We can change the game like that. He's a leader. He's a person that's going to impact so many. And if you need someone to say, come with me if you want to live, Zach Butters is your guy. So I think he, again, extremely underrated.
Yeah, I agree in that. I had 2 Port players in my extended squad, and it wasn't Horne-Francis. It was Butters and it was Rosie. Because they've been
Todd Marshall.
Brendan Zerk-Thatcher. No, it's just
Hey!
no, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. He was a freak. But no, I completely agree in that I have seen Zach Butters do too many good things too many times to count him out. I think he's so good, and like you said, he is a match winner. The amount of times, like those 40 disposal games, I remember like just specifically being like, these are just unbelievable. So that was why he was in my extended squad, and like looking at it, I would happily put him in the N10 kind of thing. But my number one for me is like you spoke enough about him already. It's Nick Dacos. I think already in the time that Nick Dacos has spent at Collingwood, and he is what 22. I think Nick Dacos is already. This is going to sound so fucked out of context, and I do apologize to everybody that's going to listen to this. I think Nick Dacos is already one of the Collingwood greats. I think he's already one of the greatest Collingwood players that's ever played the game.
So you believe in the
Based
hype?
on based on his impact and what he is going to do forever. If people forget he's going to be around for the next 15 years. This guy is going to be playing forever, and he is going to just continue to rack up. He's going to get a few Brownlows. He's going to continue to be this, and I think next year is just another step in that. You can't stop him. Like he's unstoppable. He can change a game in that. To me, Nick Dacos, he has got everything that Pendlebury had in terms of his silkiness. His skills are unbelievable. He's starting to, people used to rag on his contested game. He even built that up last year. Nick Dacos, to me, the best player in the AFL, and he will be for the next 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue. It's simple facts.
Yeah.
But my opinion on that is, and why I didn't put him at one is, everyone eventually gets figured out. Everyone
Yeah.
gets found out. So we'll wait and see. And mine, I've hyped up the fact that this year is going to be the year of everyone overtaking everyone. It's going to be youngsters and all that. And yet I put him at number one. But this will be the last time. This is the last one.
The last time, I swear to God.
The last one before the drop-off happens, and it's Marcus Bontempelli.
Yep.
Dogs are going to win the flag this year. It's because of that man. And, I looked at players that could have a big year. I'm looking at Sam Darcy, might even break this top 10. He's a star already.
He's got a lot going for him. Yeah.
I look at Jamara. He's a player that can do it. And they've got players coming through the wing that can do it. But I think Bont's going to be number one. And I think you're happy to hear that. He's
absolutely, I am.
Also the stupid sexiest player to ever play the game, probably. Second best, probably.
Trav.
We know who number one is. Number one in our hearts. That's our 10v10.
Yes.
We've had our arguments. I've listened. I've written them both down. I'm looking at them. It's pretty compelling. So who would you officially... So you put Andrew versus Noah Anderson.
Yeah.
Before we do that, actually, who were some players you had?
1 to 10.
Who were your players that were honourable mentions?
Yes, so I had Rosie and Butters were both on that.
I had Connor Rosie, yep.
On the outer, yeah. And then I had Jai Newcomb as well. I had this one was kind of a joke. Kind of this guy could be the greatest player in the AFL and we just don't know it yet, and Matthias Filippo. Because you put him in the midfield this year and he averages 25. It's every chance. I really wanted to put in Toby Green, but I think last year kind of sort of soured a little bit for me. And then Jesse Hogan was in there as well. And then this one is, I honestly can't believe neither of us put him in, to be honest, but Isaac Heaney, obviously. The only reason, right, for anybody here watching right now that thinks, that are like, why haven't you put Isaac Heaney in? He just had one of the best years, probably could have won the Brownlow. I have been burnt by that man too many times. For years and years and years, I've been like, he's the next best thing. And then every time he's good, he's not again. And I'm like, all right, I need him to do 2 good years in a row before I'm like, yep, you're good now. That's what I've got.
I didn't put him in because I think I look at Sydney and I go, you, all names. Chad Warner's the same. He's a impact. But if they're ever so slightly off, they're completely off. Like there is, and that's for me. I think Heaney had a superb year, but when they were going through the lean patch, he was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
So, if you need a person to stand up in big moments, Isaac Heaney's a guy. We look at it in finals, but we also look at the grand final and you go, where were you?
Nobody was good that day.
No. couple of others just quickly. I think probably in the next couple of years we'll probably be mentioning them in these lists, but obviously no one mentioned Sam Walsh. I think Isaac Rankin has a very good shout
Yes.
at being a shout this coming year. Max Holmes is probably Geelong's arguably. I think Bailey Smith we haven't mentioned because he hasn't played for 18 months.
I don't think he's that up to it yet.
I didn't put him down. I just put him in then. Sam Durham is going to be a future star. Jordan De Goey we didn't put in there. I think Dan Houston at Collingwood's going to be right up around the mark. And I think that's about it really that I didn't really mention. So
Yeah, just those few little players here and there. There's a couple others that just on top of my head, like Matt Rowell is really really good. But
Davies Uniacke.
yes, LDU is obviously an incredible player. We spoke about him when we were talking about Marshall, but Tristan Sherry is obviously amazing. I mean Max Gawn, who's been the best ruckman in the comp for the last decade, just about. Obviously, we didn't put him in. Again, it's a mixture of things, mixture of age, mixture of needing a few more years to truly believe in it, kind of thing for a lot of those players. And then they'll
But
sort
this
of
is
poking around.
this is also the other thing. Everyone's going to be sitting there going, "All right, what's your 10? Get to it." And I'll be like, "Well, you sit here and you go, we're not picking the 10 from what they did last year."
No,
That's the argument. We're
it's
predicting
what
what
you
could
think.
be.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't think the honourable mentions are going to have an impact. But I do think Marcus Bontempelli is going to be number one.
You want him to be number one?
I want him to be number one.
See, I would make the case for Nick Dacos being number one purely because, well, based on numbers alone, I had him one, you had him at three, if I'm right. And with Bont, I had him at four, you had him at one. That's just numbers alone kind of thing. And then I think if you say potential and you say the way you've been saying next year is the year of the up and coming midfielder or the up and coming new stars, I think Nick Dacos should be in that one spot. I think we've found our top two, just so we're clear on
It's just a matter of one and
of who
two.
is where. Yeah.
I think, well, now I throw it to you. Do you go to Nick Dacos on individual performance versus Bont individual performance? About the same. All right. Who's going to be better, Collingwood or the Dogs?
I think Collingwood's going to be better than the Dogs.
So do I.
So
So
I
I
think that,
think that's answers. So
yeah.
Nick Dacos is our number one player of 2025.
I think that's a safe bet. I think that's a bet that not many people are going to be upset about. I think he goes in there at
I
one.
think a lot of people will be upset about it,
Maybe, but he's also very
especially the
good. And
Dogs.
people need to realize that. Yeah, well, okay. Well, then I think Bont can go number two then. I think that's a safe bet. Looking at a few of the
Mhm.
polls and things we did, which if you want to go and take a look, go to the Glass Table on all the social media and everything like that. We did a few different ones. We had Bont versus Cripps. Bont won all of our polls across Instagram stories, post, and Twitter. So I think it's a safe bet to put him in at two anyway, as that Premier midfielder.
So Nick Dacos one, Marcus Bontempelli two. There's number three. Obviously, Dacos is out for me. We both have Bont in there, which is good. So basically, you're looking at Cripps, Kerno, and Butters fighting against each other.
So here's my theory on this. I had Cripps, you didn't have him. You had Butters, I didn't have him. We both
And
had Kerno.
Kerno, we both. I just don't think he's three.
I don't think he's three either. That makes me a little bit worried. I would be happy to put Goulden there because I had him at five.
I had him at four.
That's what makes me think we could just bump him up. Even it out
And
at
even if we think, oh, like he's going to be the best player at Sydney are going to be up there again.
yeah.
I like that. I think we can do Errol Gordon
I would
three.
happily put him there, and then I think we should put Charlie Gurno at four. I think that's where he goes.
I just don't think he's going to be top five. This is because our next few. I don't want to. I'm not going to move Horn Francis. I think he has a very strong case for being number five. So it's a matter of someone is going to fall out at the end, and I think Kerno will be in there. I'm happy to put Kerno at fifth because if you balance it out, you go third for
Yeah,
you and then eight for me.
yeah,
Middle ground's fifth.
yeah.
Top five.
I'll meet him at fifth. I'll meet Kerno at fifth. We got to find somebody that then goes above him. And I think the people that we have, we've got Cripps, we've got Butters, we've
And
got
Horn
Horn
Francis.
Francis, and there's also just looking around, we've got Sarong, who's in there as well.
Don't
Uh,
think Sarong's going to be a top five player.
I don't think he is either.
I'll throw this at you. Butters, Butters, Cripps, midfielders, both can kick goals, haven't been as prolific. If you come to season end and you go, there's a bloke I want to turn to make a difference in this game, it's Jason Horne-Francis.
Interesting to me.
Match winner. He's
See, I
only
think
going to go up another level. And I don't think Cripps has any more to go at his peak. Butters is the loose cannon. And probably I can argue all right, maybe drop him down. But if you're going to bring someone into it, I think Jason Horne-Francis is your man at fourth.
See, I think I would argue that Butters goes above Horne-Francis, but I don't think Cripps should fall that low. This is an interesting spot. This is exactly where we thought we were going to struggle. That four,
I
five,
just,
six region.
I just think honestly, I think you're basing it a lot on what you've seen.
Yes, absolutely, I have, and I completely understand. It's just, I don't think Cripps is going to fall off this massive cliff of
I don't
45
think
votes to.
oh no, I'm not saying he should go straight out, and I reckon he'll nail it in one of the bottom 5 spots. And if you want to do it, I'd almost go Horne-Francis, Cripps, Kerno.
Yeah, I'll take that. I reckon that's safe. I reckon Horne-Francis at 4, Cripps at 5, Kerno at 6. I think he's a pretty safe one. Then I
Yep,
think,
I like
and
that.
then and then I think
I think you're going Caleb Sarong, or are you going Butters?
Sarong or Butters. I had Sarong in, so I know you had Butters really high, and that's what's making me feel that. I think I think for the basis of obviously there can be two absolute stars of Port Adelaide, but I think on the basis of being able to of knowing that there is more than likely going to be one star rather than two, you would go Sarong at 7, Butters at 8,
Rowan Marshall at 9.
Ron Marshall at 9.
All right, so Caleb Sarong at 7, Butters at 8,
Rowan Marshall at 9.
Rowan Marshall at 9, which leaves then
I was going to say, so the players we've got left that I'm looking at, we've got Sam Taylor, who I think could probably fall out. That's fine. Harris
Dylan
Andrews.
Moore,
Dylan Moore is an interesting one because we both had him in there.
and then Noah Anderson.
Personally, I think Dylan Moore should be in there.
Yeah, I kind of like that because I had him probably. He's probably sitting in that top 15. And if Hawthorn, again, Dylan Moore's that small forward can rack up at the midfield, you can move up the ground. I really like a case for Sam Taylor though because
I know.
I think having a key defender, and he is the best key defender in the comp. Only played half a season.
I think it's one of those two. I just think it's Dylan Moore based on. I am basing it on obviously not on his. I mean, he's had a good year, obviously, but I'm basing it on I know what a player of his stature can do. Toby Green in 2023 was the All Australian captain. He was one of the best players in the competition. Dylan Moore to me is that next step. So I think I would say Dylan Moore at 10.
Then yeah, well then if that's the case, then I'm throwing in Jai Newcomb. But I'd actually make a stronger case for Sam Taylor if that's, and I think the Giants will still be
That'll be good.
in a more prominent position than the Hawks. And Dylan Moore can be very easily phased out of a game if the Hawks aren't having their way, whereas Sam Taylor is consistently going to be.
Yeah, that's actually a great point in that if the Hawks can't get it to Dylan Moore, he won't be able to have as much of an impact, whereas Sam Taylor will always have an impact. Yeah, Sam Taylor at the 10.
Really love Dylan Moore.
I do too. That's why this is tough to me because if there was ever an honorable mention in any fucking squad, he's there.
I'm
That's him.
quite literally going, we'll make the graphic, do Sam Taylor at 10, and then just at the bottom in the fine print, I'm so sorry, Dylan Moore.
We really, really love you, Dylan Moore, but I'm so sorry that you can't be in this. But even still, there are so many players that we haven't put in that people will fucking go crazy about. Heaney, obviously. Lockie Neal, obviously. There's even other ones that like are on the verge that people are like, maybe they'll be good. Will Ashcroft is obviously one of them. I still think I'm trying to base it on. I don't want to be like the Brownlow. I don't want to just be like, there's a midfielders award. All the midfielders go in. I want it to be a most impactful
That's
for your team.
that's exactly how I looked at it.
Yeah,
You can't tell me, oh, I'm going to throw in a, you know, um, Jordan De Goey because he's one of Collingwood's best when I can literally look at the next page and go, oh, Carlton has Charlie Curnow. I
that's
know
my thing.
who I'm taking. It's
That is my thing was if you had two of them up in a draft, if you had a draft and you had to pick one of the two, who would be more impactful for your team? Charlie Curnow is why I had him so high. I think he's out and out the best key forward in the comp, and key forwards like they are so necessary in the AFL. Still, even though they don't kick $100 a year anymore, just for the fact of being a decoy, they are always going to drag out the biggest defender. It creates so much space. And Charlie Curnow being Charlie Curnow doesn't just drag one defender, he drags four. And that to me makes him so valuable, which is why I wanted to make it as wide as possible, which is why I'm happy with either Dylan Moore or Sam Taylor in that last spot because they're not your traditional midfielders, but they're so impactful.
I can't wait to review this at the end of the year. We've got no one.
It's gonna be great. No, we'll get like two.
We hit
Someone's gonna be fine.
50%. I tell you what, I'm taking this home. And it's all based on your own opinion. It's subjective.
I
It's something that
challenge people to come at us in the comments with their own top 10.
they'll come out of the comments anyway, but by the time you even say
Angry.
that,
They'll come out angry.
I'm not going to be surprised. At least Port fans will be happy.
Yeah, a couple of Ports in there. Ryan Marshall's in there, so I'm happy. That makes me feel good.
At least I can now put the thumbnail with JHF in it.
Ah. Clicks. Absolutely clicks.
JHF and Bont.
Yeah, it's a good shout. And I mean,
And
Bont is
probably I might just throw in Kerno and Dacos on the front too, just to attract them.
the big fan bases, the big fan
Yeah.
bases. In my mind, Marcus Bontempelli is like the most loved footballer in the world because everyone just adores this man because he's so good, and
His arms.
it'd just be a shame if he wasn't in there, to be honest. So yeah, I'm happy about it.
So the official GT top 10 as we wrap it up for 2025. And we predict that this will be the top 10 best players for the AFL. Number 1, Nick Dacos. Number 2, Marcus Bontempelli. Number 3, Errol Gordon. Number 4, Jason Horne-Francis. Number 5, Patrick Cripps. Number 6, Charlie Curnow. Number 7, Caleb Sarong. Number 8, Zach Butters. Number 9, Roland Marshall. Number 10, Sam Taylor.
I see no issues. I say we have the perfect top 10 list, and everyone else can go and get stuffed.
And you wonder how the comments will go now.
Sorry.
Anyway, I think the next one we do is the best player we think will be for each club.
I love that idea, and I'm going to make it very, very fun because I can't wait to go to West Coast and be like, who plays for you right now?
Is Wiley Buzzer still a thing? Oh, no, he went to Port at one stage.
There's a name, Wiley Buzzer.
Yeah. Speaking of buzzers, time to end, I think.
Thanks, everybody. This was fun.
We look forward to obviously launching the glass table coming out a couple of weeks prior to the season. We'll definitely have a lot more of these pieces of content to come through. But Jarryd, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. This is very, very fun. And now I'm going to be just thinking about who's going to be my top 10. And then I'll be laying in bed tonight. And I'll be like, should have put him in.
Yeah, it's all right, Trav. You're still in my heart.
You're always going to be there. He'll always be in there. Don't worry about that.
Number one seeder in the beta, as they say, you know what I mean? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, follow us on all the socials, and we will see you throughout 2025.
Woo! Let's do it.
Come the pair.
Yeah.